I get the weirdest questions from the public. I'm 67 years old. I use the living crud out of 2 of those rifles. I use all 4 of them, and I still do for testing ammo. But for carrying in the woods, carrying on a horse, hunting, taking on fishing trips, shooting anything from coyotes to mice to elk to black bears, I used them extensively. But at 67, I can say that and also put in the same sentence, I haven't used them for 20 years. Hi folks, this is Tim Sundles coming to you from our Idaho office. My beautiful wife Kim is doing the filming on her iPhone, and I want to talk to you about the 50 Alaskan. These are my 350 Alaskan rifles. Let's start. This is a cartridge that deserves a commercially produced factory rifle. All these rifles were, custom made. All 3 of these are built on Marlin actions. So let's take a look at what we have here. For comparison's sake, I put a 5110 Winchester brass here. That brass is 2.4 inches long. Here are 350 Alaskan cartridges. And I put 3 up here because these are 3 that I shoot a lot. The brass is 2.1 inches long. So you get 300 thousandths more length with the 5110. The problem with the historic 5110 in its black powder loading was they shot really light 300 grain bullets. They should be shooting 500 grain bullets. This is a 500 grain Alaska Bullet Works. This is a 640 grain hard cast bullet that I shoot subsonically in this rifle with the suppressor on it. And this is a 466 or 470 grain that I use for general use in North America. Now, they're the same brass other than the length. They have the same case head. It's just the length that is different. You could never fit this into a Marlin action. You would have to use a Winchester 1886 or a Winchester 71, which is basically an 1886. They're the same action for general purposes. This is a 500 line bar, which was made by shortening the 50 Alaskan to 1.4 inch, from 2.1 down to 1.4 inch. This is a 348 Winchester, and here's why I've included it. This brass, this brass, this brass, that brass was all made by blowing out the 348 to a straight wall, having no shoulder on it. So that's where the 50 Alaskan comes from. You could argue that it also came from the 5110 by shortening it, but the 5110 just wasn't even around or popular. No ammo was made for it for decades and decades and decades. This brass here is brand new Starline brass that I just got a shipment of 15,000. I could have ordered more. Nobody makes guns for it. We don't make ammo for it. We just plan to. So I have to, go in debt like I do on every new cartridge we make. And it may take 2 years before we can talk somebody into making rifles, and it's going to have to be somebody that uses 1886 actions, and they're going to have to put fast twist riflings in them so we can shoot 500 plus grain bullets. It's going to have to be set up to kill African and North American big dangerous game. That's the only point in having the thing. They're so incredibly powerful. So and this is a 4570 put here for reference, just so you can see the difference. Here we'll put it next to the 5110. And this is a 30-06. And I just put it there because everybody knows what a 30-06 is. So it's just sitting there as a reference cartridge so you can see the difference. I mean, gosh, look at the difference in case capacity there. It's a huge difference. You know, it's nothing to load these with 85, 90 grains of powder if you're doing max loads. The 50 Alaskans, you know, 75 grains of powder plus is not out of the question. And of course, 30-06, if you can get 60 grains of powder in there with a 180 grain bullet, you're really compressing powder. So anyway, so here's the case heads. 5110, 50 Alaskan are very close to being the same. 4570, got a little bit of difference there. 348 should be the same as the 50 Alaskan and the 5110. Here's the 30-06, and here's a 500 line bow, which should be the same as the 348 or the 50 Alaskan. Now let's talk about rifles for a second. Dave Clay made this rifle for me with a heavy octagon barrel. It's 20 inches long. The problem with these guns is that they break stocks. You know, if you're going to shoot 525 grain cast bullets at 1900 feet a second or more, you're going to break stocks. Well, this one doesn't have that issue because it's a laminate wood stock. They're strong like concrete. But you know, Dave Clay made it with a slim forearm, a nice octagon barrel, full-length magazine tube, so I'd have high ammo capacity. I think this holds 6 in the magazine tube. And of course, this has the old XS sights. I had this rifle built long before Skinner was ever around. And when they build these, they take all the liability out of the rifle. In other words, this thing's gotta work. It's gotta work. Because you're gonna be shooting either charging grizzly bears, or if you go to Africa, you're gonna be shooting buffalo or elephant. I mean, the cartridge will kill any animal on the planet, no problemo, if your bullet is designed right. So, because of that, it relies on a half-cock safety. The unsafe crossbolt safety, when Clay made this, however he did it, that safety no longer exists. And here we have a very usable rifle. I go through phases. I carried this rifle a lot for about 3 years. And I had a guy send me a message yesterday on our 3855 video where I said, I've used these two 3855s extensively, but I haven't shot them in 20 years. He goes, how can you use something extensively you haven't shot in 20 years? And I get the weirdest questions from the public. I'm 67 years old. I use the living crud out of 2 of those rifles. I use all 4 of them, and I still do for testing ammo. But for carrying in the woods, carrying on a horse, hunting, you know, taking on fishing trips, shooting anything from coyotes to mice to elk to black bears, I used them extensively. But at 67, I can say that and also put in the same sentence, I haven't used them for 20 years. I mean, math isn't that hard to do. Maybe it is for some people. I don't know. This is a using gun, and I have used it extensively. I have not done anything other than develop ammo with it in the last 10 years or so. But I used to carry it. I used to kill stuff with it. I can tell you that 50 caliber hard cast bullets with a big flat nose that weigh 470 grains that run almost 2,200 feet a second wallops the hell out of anything in North America. I mean, it's overkill. You're frankly better served with a 4570, because of the cost of the ammo, the cost of the guns. And the 45-70 with our full power ammo is ample for anything in North America. A lot of grizzly guides use it. A close friend of mine that's a grizzly guide has killed 2 grizzly bears that charged him that were wounded with 45-70 with a Marlin guide gun and our ammo. This thing is a stomper. I mean, it's the stomper from hell. And you know, it's housed in a nice, light, handy Marlin action. That's a Marlin 336 action. It's just, everything about it's beautiful. Now, let's talk about my latest acquisition. This rifle was made by Dave Clay and Ashley Emerson. And it was Ashley's personal rifle. It's been to Africa, killed stuff. It's killed stuff in North America. Ashley wanted it made a certain way. He liked this nice slim octagon barrel. Mine is much heavier. The recoil is so severe that the first 2 stocks broke under recoil. So he sent it to Lou Bonnet's at Grizzly Custom up in Montana, and Lou put a longer, heavier screw through here and then ran a through bolt that you can unthread if you take the recoil pad off, and made it, there's a steel rod going through this stock. It doesn't break anymore. Now, this one never would break because it's laminate wood. And the other way to fix the stock breakage problem is to do like they do on the big kicking double rifles and big African rifles, and that's just put a full-length tang to about here. You just extend that tang and also put a longer tang underneath. You know, you don't stop it there, you run it out to here. And then that's how all the African rifles are built. And that would be easy to do on these. Now, this rifle has a 24-inch barrel because Ashley wanted it to hold 9 rounds. And the rest of the trick on making these things usable is that's 9 rounds of ammo in a, you know, you're talking 525 grain bullets is what Ashley was shooting. You know how much that weighs when you fill that magazine tube up, and then it kicks like hell. So special treatment had to be done to attach the forearm, the magazine tube, here under the forearm and up here. Special stuff. You cannot just, I mean, these custom makers are making custom guns, and that's how they make them. Otherwise, the gun falls apart under recoil. And you'll notice the unsafe safety has been dealt with on this one too. And it will on any of these guns because they're for dangerous game. You cannot have something unsafe on the gun and then go out and stake your life on it. At the end of this video, my wife and I are gonna take a walk, and we're gonna go out and shoot this thing. And there's some nice big muddy springs and bogs. It will blow your mind when I shoot this into the mud. It will blow 20, 30, 40 pounds of mud in the air. And a good share of that will land on me and the gun. And you know, when you shoot rocks with it, it just crumbles boulders. It just crumbles them.
At what distance?
Oh, you know, we'll stand back 25, 35 feet, but it just destroys things. These are destroying rifles made for hunting the dangerous of game if you want to hunt with a lever gun. Ashley has this one pretty much foolproofed with everything he did to it, but it was a process. This one here that Dave Clay built for me that I already showed you, we didn't have nearly the trouble with it. He built it after him and Ashley went through all the learning on this rifle. And you know, with the laminate wood stock, it's not gonna break stocks. And with the heavier contour barrel mounting a magazine tube, and they have to use thick steel on these magazine tubes because if you're up in the rocks, climbing mountains in the ice or the snow and you slip and fall and hit that magazine tube on a rock and dent it, guess what? Now your magazine tube doesn't work. So they use heavy gauge steel and they mount them so that they cannot, due to recoil, get damaged and come loose on the rifle. This was a much easier rifle to build than Ashley's because of the heavier barrel. and because of the laminate wood stock. Ashley's has twice the class, and I don't necessarily like 24-inch barrels on my lever guns. But the rifle balances well, it shoots really well, and I'm just gonna leave it with the 24-inch barrel. You know, it holds 9 rounds in a magazine tube. That's just cool. And there's all kinds of tricks they did that I'm not taking the gun apart and showing you, but to get this thing to hold up under the recoil. Now, this is also a Dave Clay gun that at one time I used extensively, but I haven't fired it in many, many years. This rifle is probably the only lever action I have a scope on. And let me explain to you why. I have a friend named Mike. Mike lives up in the Panhandle area of Idaho where it's really, really brushy. And Mike lives in a subdivision, but we're talking subdivisions where people have, you know, 20, 30, 40, even 100-acre lots that they build one house on. And it's at the base of some mountains. So at the right times of year, the elk migrate down into these subdivisions. Well, Mike eats elk meat, and he had 2 or 3 neighbors that loved elk meat too, but the rest of the neighbors, and you know, we're talking 30-acre lots or 50-acre lots per neighbor, but a lot of them up there in northern Idaho, up in that Coeur d'Alene area, are really tree huggers. They don't want the elk hunted. Of course, the elk are busy tearing down their fences and eating their shrubbery and everything else because they start starving if the numbers get too high. So Mike bought a Marlin guide gun, 4570, and he went through all the paperwork to get the silencer on his. And since I had this 50 Alaskan laying around, I went ahead and did all the paperwork for the silencer and had it installed on a 50 Alaskan. Now, when you shoot subsonic, you always use heavy bullets if you're smart. And so the bullet I load in these, it's right there, it's 640 grains because I'm limited to 1,100 feet a second, and you know, to keep it subsonic. Well, that'll shoot lengthwise through any elk that ever walked. It'd probably shoot lengthwise through any bison that ever walked. You know, at 1,100 feet a second. You don't need to run those big, heavy, flat nose, hard gas bullets very fast. You know, they just zing on through. The reason I scoped it, and I hate scopes on liver guns, but that country up there has brush so thick that it could be that the only shot you're going to get is by threading the bullet through the tiniest of hole in the brush. You know, you can see the outline of the elk and everything, but there's brush everywhere. There's a hole that big you can put the bullet through to hit him in the shoulder or in the lungs. And so I just decided I'll use a scope. Well, I haven't gone up to Mike's now and hunted in 15 years. And I don't really care to. I don't like hunting in the rainforest. And, you know, I'm not into elk meat that much. And I've killed so many elk that I like the rifle, so I'm probably going to take the scope off and reinstall the rear sight and just use it with iron sights. I have absolutely no use for the suppressor. I'll probably just shoot regular full-powered ammo out of it and keep it. I use it as a test gun quite a bit. But again, it's a Dave Clay build, and he treated the magazine tube very differently on this. He actually soldered a stop onto the barrel and a dovetail, and then the forearm hanger under here has all kinds of extra goodies on it. And of course, the unsafe safety had to be dealt with because it's a dangerous game rifle. And it's a very nice rifle. You know, the forearm is all nice and slim. It's just a very trim, nice rifle. And I really should start using it again. So that's my lineup of 50 Alaskans. And we make, I want to say, 4 different 50 Alaskan factory loads. And we just got a bunch of 50 Alaskan brass in from Starline also. And our 50 Alaskan loads are pretty depleted. So we are going to replenish them. We're going to be making 50 Alaskan here in the next month or two. And
so shout out to Starline, thank you.
yeah, thanks Starline. And on top of that, they only sent me half of what I ordered. I don't know why, because on the 5110 brass they sent me everything I ordered. So go figure. I don't know. I've been up in Africa hunting, so I haven't had time to talk to the folks at Starline about it.
And you've hunted with him many, many, many years.
Yeah, the owner of Starline and the president, Robert Hayden, Bobby. I took Bobby out. He killed his first elk with me, killed his first black bear with me, and I'm going back 30 years.
Well, because you knew his dad who started the company.
Yeah, I knew his mom and his dad, that started Starline. I think his mother has since passed, and I think Bobby owns the whole company at this point. He's been running it for 35 or 40 years.
Great guy.
Yeah, Bobby Hayden's good people. Good, solid, dependable, good people. Anyway, folks, that's the 50 Alaskan. We're gonna end this video by saying God bless, and we're gonna take a walk and do a little shooting with Ashley's gun. I wanna use Ashley's gun. So we're gonna go do that next, and we'll see you on the next video. Hi folks. I have Ashley Emerson's old 50 Alaskan here, and I'm just gonna do a little shooting at some very close targets of opportunity. If we were up in the hills, I'd probably shoot it at 300 and 400 yards for you, just so you can understand how these big, heavy bullets carry. Right here, I'm just gonna let you see the power. I'm gonna shoot in this bog, and you can see the kind of holes it'll make, and mud will fly up. I bought this from Ashley a few weeks ago, and I've been dying just to get out and shoot it. So anyway, I'm gonna do a little shooting. So I shot this rock 3 times from back there. That's the footage you just watched. That's a big solid rock. That's not weak rock. Of course, it destroyed the rock. And then here's one shot I put on a slanted rock, which doesn't do any destruction because the bullet comes in, shatters, and just sprays out. But those are the rocks I was shooting.